If you think of one in every 8 light bulbs in the country is effectively being powered by Lake Turkana wind power and the wind energy from Marsabit. We are already in a phase where we're very forward-looking in our preventative maintenance, but the cost will go up. There'll be more repair on the turbines, which means the cost will go up as well. But that will not affect the tariff. We take that cost internally. We will try our hardest to make sure that people from the community can take those roles. If we don't find the talent, we'll have to hire from outside. That's our responsibility as a business, but we'll always look locally. Also, we have a bigger budget for Winds of Change, which is great, so we can keep delivering value and impact in our focus areas of health, education, and water.
Welcome back. This is the Turbines of Marsabit, a podcast about Africa's largest wind farm. On this 4th episode, I'm joined by Max Schiff, the CEO of Lake Turkana Wind Farm. Today we want to understand what it really takes to run a successful wind farm. Max will be taking us through the operations, the nuts and bolts, and what really happens down at Loyangalani. Max, what is that one thing that you are sure, even if you went today to Lake Turkana wind power project that's in Loyangalani, that you are sure the community will be asking for?
Jobs. It's jobs, and this is really part of, with community, we talk about community investments, but we also need to talk about community engagement. You made a comment earlier about replacing the government. I think we provide a lot of support to the area. The government is still very active. They're operating in a difficult environment up there as well, but we can't deliver everything. We're not the government up there, and we have no intention of replacing them. We're there to support them. And when we look at our focus areas of health, education, and water, the need is so huge that we alone can't address it. It's the same when we look at jobs. More and more graduates are coming out every year, and the number of graduates far exceeds the number of new jobs being created in the country. And that dynamic means increased unemployment and frustrated youth and frustrated educated youth. And that is a real problem for them. And their grievance is valid, and we would never, ever dismiss it as Lake Turkana. It's a big challenge, and it's one that we want to help in by continuing our local employment. We are going to be introducing an internship program that will be exclusively for people from the area in an effort to try and bridge the gap between people graduating and being ready for the workplace. So we'll have 7 interns come in next year. This is something I discussed at length during our open day, where we had 120 members of the youth groups from the area at site. And we explained to them that we understand you have a desperate need for jobs. And we understand that when you're in Marsabit County, there's only one meaningful provider of jobs that you can turn to in your frustration. So we understand your frustration, and we'll listen to it, and we'll take it. And we have no problem with it, but let's talk. Let's understand that we can't employ everyone, otherwise the business folds and then there are no jobs, and that's not sustainable for anyone. So we are going through a very detailed assessment of how we introduce a bursary scholarship program to help funding for education in the area. But again, as with everything we do, it needs to be done correctly. It needs to be equitable. It needs to be auditable. It needs to be impactful. So we have to do the work first before we roll it out. And we will do that work. And I hope we can launch it next year and help a few people get ready for the job market. I mentioned previously that our community work is very much part of our DNA. So when we hand over something meaningfully, that's always a big lift for everyone in the company. There's a lot of things, a lot of people issues, watching people progress, do better, deliver well, enjoy their work, feel motivated, inspired in what they do. That makes a good day. There's many things, many things.
We're talking about 310 megawatts. I just want to understand what really is 310 megawatts from a supply or from a power?
Well, it's a good question. Often we speak about it in terms of homes. Oh. It could supply power to 1 million homes, your average grid-connected home, which is a lot. If you look at KPLC has about 9.5 million connected customers, but obviously those are homes and businesses, and they vary in size. But that's really what that scale means. So it's a huge amount. It's a major contribution. When we say 12% of the country's energy, if you think of one in every 8 light bulbs in the country is effectively being powered by Lake Turkana wind power and the wind energy from Marsabit.
Wow, 1 million bulbs. That's homes. That's quite.
It's a rule of thumb. It's a rule of thumb.
yeah,
But that gives you an idea.
I mean, the maintenance of the turbines. Is there something specific about it in terms of how often it is maintained and taken offline?
Yes. So I mean, with generation or with anything, even like your car, you'll have standard maintenance. With generation or with our wind farm, we'll have very defined points where they need to be maintained. And you have to get all of the turbines done for your A maintenance, B maintenance, C maintenance, D maintenance within that specific period. And that is a contractual obligation of Vestas, our subcontractor, to do that. As I say, you always have to be maintaining some, right? There's a turbine for every day of the year, right? And we'll generally have about 5 in maintenance at any one point. So we've got 365. 5 will be in routine maintenance. 1 may have broken down and have a more significant issue. So maybe we'll have 5, 6, or 7 out, but we don't want any more than that. And that's really where we try and maintain the plant.
You're in charge of 12% of Kenya's power installation on the national grid. And this must be a very big responsibility, as we discussed in the earlier podcast. But just take us through the day operation of a power plant. What really must happen on a day-to-day basis to make sure that you are online and you're available?
Okay, it's a big question. I'll try and do it justice. Like as you said, it's a big responsibility, but there's a lot of people behind it. And obviously, as a company, we only employ someone if they've got something to add to the project. So everyone there is adding something. I'll talk around how the plant works, just so that people understand that. But it's important to recognize that it's not just about the plant working. There's an awful lot of support services that go on to making sure that this huge site and operation works. So not everyone is involved in energy generation. There's a lot of functions as well, all of which are key to our operations and our success. So as I answer this, if I leave any out, I'm going to apologize to the colleagues that I miss, but I'll start with the technical bit. And I'll explain it as simply as I can. So we have 365 turbines, wind turbines, and people will be familiar with what they look like. We're very lucky in that wind running north to south or south to north on the East African coast is pushed on land consistently all year, runs across the landmass towards our wind farm, which is sitting between Mount Kulal and Mount Nuru, which effectively acts as a funnel, and it squeezes the wind and pushes it and accelerates across our wind farm. And that's why we have very steady, consistent, fast winds that make us one of the most efficient wind farms in the world. So what happens when the wind arrives? So it'll meet the turbines. And what the turbine effectively does, it has 3 blades. And those blades, basically, they slow the wind down. And they take some of that kinetic energy out of the wind and they turn it into electrical energy. And each of the blades on the turbine is basically like an aeroplane wing. So with an aeroplane, as it accelerates and the air moves faster over the wing, it creates lift. Same with the turbine. You get lift on the 3 blades and that creates rotation around the hub. That drives the generator and it creates energy. So it creates energy at 690 volts, which is then cabled down to the base of the turbine. It goes into a transformer and it steps up to 33 kV, which is high voltage. It then goes along what we call our internal collection network. We have about 160 kilometers worth of internal collection network. So that's just like the distribution network you see around town, delivering power to buildings in town. It's that internally. And the collection network takes it to our substation, where it is channeled into the switchgear, and then into another set of transformers where it's stepped up to 220 kV. And at that point, we deliver it to Catraco at the Loingalani substation on our site, in the middle of our site. And then it's up to Catraco to transport it down to Suswa, and then KPLC takes over for distribution and delivery to customers. So that's the sort of from wind to household, if you see what I mean. So what does it take to keep it going? So we have a very good technical team, and they have a couple of operations or a couple of remits, let's say. I'm going to talk about maintenance, and I'm also going to talk about dispatch. So maintenance is all about making sure the plant is available. Okay, so are all of the components required in that process that I've just mentioned working and in good order and ready to go? And that defines what we call our availability. And I've mentioned 98.6% or 98 to 98.6%. And effectively, the higher your availability, the more efficient you are at turning wind energy into electrical energy. That is the fundamental remit of that team. So we have a contractor, Vestas, who's responsible for maintaining the turbines at the top of the tower there. So that's contracted to them. They're the manufacturer of the turbines. And then our in-house maintenance team is responsible for what we call the balance of plant. So that is the substation, the collection network, the transformers, switch gears, lots and lots of different components. And just to give you an idea of the scale of this, 160 kilometers worth of collection network. And that's held up by nearly 3,000 wooden poles, which get tired and fall over sometime. Okay. So they need to be checked. We have the DRPC, which also needs maintenance, which falls under their remit. That has control systems, that has cooling systems, that has battery systems, all of which need to be monitored, maintained, replaced in good time. So it's a huge job of work covering 40,000 acres. And the team does an outstanding job. Our availability is superb. We are trying to invest in more tools for them to make their work easier. So we're getting a digitized maintenance system, which is going to automate the scheduling of all of their maintenance activities across the farm. So the second item under the technical remit is dispatch. So in the substation, we have our control room, and the team there, that's 24 hours. It's always manned. There has to be someone in there. It is never empty. And what happens in there is, firstly, they keep a view over the whole wind farm using our SCADA system. They can see every single turbine, if it's performing, if it has a problem, if it needs maintenance, and they then will speak to the maintenance team and let them know, and the maintenance team will go out and address it. But also, and importantly, they coordinate with the National Control Centre, KPLC, who is responsible for operating the grid and making sure that supply and demand are matched, which is a fundamental requirement of a synchronous grid. So that is something that can never have a mismatch. Otherwise, we have issues of stability across the grid. So obviously with wind, over a day, a week, a month, the wind changes. More wind, more power. Less wind, less power. Very basic. But what our guys will do is we have met masts all across the site, and we have softwares in place that allow us to forecast. And they will give a week ahead, a day ahead, an hour ahead, half an hour ahead forecast to KPLC. So KPLC can say, fantastic, I've got 280 megawatt coming from Lake Turkana wind power. I don't need so much from my hydro. I don't need so much from my geothermal. I can turn off those thermals. Or we'll say, rain's coming, wind's dropping. We're only going to be able to give you 50 megawatts. So they have to then increase from other sources so that supply is met. And that is a continuous job, a detailed job. We've got a superb team that do it. They're very, very efficient at it. We have about 4 different lines of communication to the control center in case anything goes down, so the redundancy is there. We invite people from the National Control Center to come and see us pretty much on a monthly basis, just to learn what it's like being at an intermittent wind farm and to build that bridge between our two institutions and make sure that understanding and collaboration and communication is really, really good. And I must say, I think we do a very good job with the National Control Center, and they're very, very helpful. It's a really good relationship and very, very important part of the national grid and power supply here. Cool.
From a cost perspective, do we see, for some, whenever there is, with time, the costs become more expensive, like running railways in the world over.
Yeah.
For a power plant, is that the same thing or is it different?
Yeah, I'm going to come back to the car analogy.
Yes.
You know, if you're driving a 20-year-old car, you're spending more on maintenance than you are if you're driving a 2-year-old car.
Yeah.
Now, this is a reality. So yes, and for our maintenance team, they're going to have more work. They'll have to deal with it. We'll probably have to invest in more people, better systems, better approaches. We are already in a phase where we're very forward-looking in our preventative maintenance, but the cost will go up. There'll be more repair on the turbines, which means the cost will go up as well. But that will not affect the tariff.
Yeah.
We take that cost internally. It's my job to try and make sure we look after the plant in such a way that that cost doesn't escalate too much and mean that we have financial headwinds or we don't meet investor returns. So it's an internal dynamic. So it'll never feed through into the tariff. It's not going to be cost of energy to the consumer. It's going to be cost of supplying that energy to Lake Turkana. But that's our job, to manage it and make sure that we're efficient and proactive on it.
What would be like a good day for you? I mean, is it about the amount of wind that is coming
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. That's a starter.
So a windy day would be a very good thing. Any other factors that will determine that good day?
I mean, there's so much, and there are so many good days, really. Wind is good. We all love seeing the turbines spin as fast as they can. I wake up every day and I have a look at what the production is. I have an app on my phone which tells me how many are online and how much are we producing at any one time. I think the other thing is a safe day. We operate in a difficult environment. We drive a lot of vehicles. We're dealing with electricity. We have a lot of people on site. So if everything goes safely, there's no injuries, there's no incidents, that's always a very good day. Most days are like that. We're very focused on our health and safety. I think community and engagement days are always fantastic, be it an open day or handover of a project. I mentioned previously that our community work is very much part of our DNA. So when we hand over something meaningfully, that's always a big lift for everyone in the company. There's a lot of things, a lot of people issues, watching people progress, do better, deliver well, enjoy their work, feel motivated, inspired in what they do. That makes a good day. There's many things, many things.
Let's go to sustainability a bit and community actions, because this is really big in terms of where you operate from, and people are looking at you. In many respects, in some areas, you've literally replaced what would be the job of the government in some quarters. What should people expect, especially the locals around Lake Turkana Wind, in terms of going forward? What are your priority areas, and how are you going to deal with that?
So our two major community contributions are our employment. I've mentioned previously 80% from Marsabit. We will try our hardest to make sure that people from the community can take those roles. If we don't find the talent, we'll have to hire from outside. That's our responsibility as a business, but we'll always look locally. Also, we have a bigger budget for Winds of Change, which is great. So once again, our board have put forward even more funds for Winds of Change, for even more projects, so we can keep delivering value and impact in our focus areas of health, education, and water. We also keep funds aside for any emergency relief. We had an extended program recently where we were feeding 17,700 children at school a meal a day because there was a drought and food shortage in the area. And look, we'll continue to work with the government in the area. I think we have an effective relationship with various national and county government institutions in the area, who are key to the success of a lot of these projects. We have to be coordinated on them to make sure that they provide a lasting impact. It's another year of positive contribution after everything that's gone. I mean, we've spent €6 million on our community investment projects to date. We've been given confirmation of another 800,000, it's a huge amount of money, and can have a lot of impact. And we look forward to making it meaningful. Look forward to some more very colourful handovers in the various locations, making a difference.
We're recording this podcast when the whole world is just focused on Baku. Big COP meeting, everyone is discussing climate change, and now carbon credit is becoming a very big issue, especially for this part of the world. Where does Lake Turkana Wind play in this carbon credits market?
It's actually quite a complex question. So to date, Lake Turkana Wind Power has not sold a carbon credit. So we have not generated any revenue from carbon credits. Now, it's a frustration for us because the agreement under our PPA is that if we can generate revenue from carbon credits, we will effectively give it to National Treasury via KPLC, and then it will be spent on communities along the transmission line. So I've already told you how much work we put into Winds of Change. For us not to be able to generate revenue to deliver to communities is a source of deep frustration because it's something that we enjoy doing and we want to do as much as we can. And this would be much easier than the level of work we do in our community projects across Lysamus. There have been a couple of issues that the market for carbon credits after the start of the project was a disaster. There was no value at all in the CERs, really. So getting any value out of them was nearly impossible. But I mean, to be open and candid, I mean, you'll be aware that there is a legal dynamic around the land title in the area. Now, there's been quite a lot of commentary on that in the press, and some of it, I would say, very inaccurate. But inaccurate commentary read by ill-informed people still has the same effect, which is that people see these inaccuracies, they believe them, and it's created quite a lot of reputational damage to Lake Turkana in some areas, and that has severely hampered our ability to sell carbon credits, because carbon credits are project linked. So buyers will say, whose project am I buying from? And they'll have a little look and they'll go, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that dynamic. It's a bit negative. Maybe that's not what I'll buy. And that has really hampered us. However, what I would say is that having done 5 years of operation now and having built the body of evidence around the positive impact we are eroding that and we are chipping away at that. And the marketability of our carbon credits is coming back. And I personally am in a process at the moment of looking at the best possible advisor support agent to help us really start marketing them next year. And I hope, I can't guarantee because the market is a market and the price is determined by the market, not by me. I hope we'll have some demand and we can start doing that. And that for me would be, as a new CEO, a great deliverable for the company and for communities down the T-line. So we're trying, but to date it's not been a success.
Let's talk about now the future of what to expect from Lake Turkana Wind. What does the future look like? I mean, you're already championing Kenya's place as a green power producer. I mean, what else do you expect from Lake Turkana?
Let me talk about the run rate, the existing plant. Yeah. So we have a 20-year PPA with KPLC that runs till 2039. So all of the benefits I've spoken about in terms of fuel displacement, economics, cost of electricity, employment, carbon offset, community investment. The good news is it's just the beginning. We've done 5 full years of it. We'll do another full 15 years of it. So there's a lot more to come in terms of what we're going to deliver to the country, to the county. So that is good news. There is more to be done with the site. Really, if you look at Kenya and its trajectory, we've got this very well-known objective under Vision 2030 to be fully renewable on the grid by 2030. But also we have the least cost power development plan. So this is effectively the Ministry of Energy's roadmap for energy in the country. Where do they want to go? How are they going to do it? So what energy supplies are they going to use? So that's really, it's looking at increasing capacity. It's looking at improving transmission. It's looking at reducing carbon, and it's looking at trying to achieve the optimal price. Those are probably the 4 pillars of the plan and the roadmap. There's a big focus on geothermal in it, but there's also a focus on wind, solar, and battery systems. Now, we could contribute to that plan quite significantly, either by expanding the wind farm or expanding the amount of generation within the wind farm, by adding solar within the wind farm, by introducing batteries to help smooth the supply of power. But there are challenges in that. I mean, the plan up to, I think, 2042 is looking at increasing grid supply to about, I think it's 8.9 gigawatts. We're at about 3 now. So that's tripling it, right? But there are significant procurement processes within that. There are significant needs to improve transmission, as we've mentioned, such that additional power can actually be effectively injected into the grid and transmitted to the users, distributed to the users. So the short answer is we would love to contribute more, and we can contribute more. Yeah. Our investors recognize that Kenya's provided a stable environment for us. We have a good relationship with our customer. We have a high-functioning plant and a footprint where we could do more. So when the time is right, that is definitely something that we would like to put resource into. And when I say put resource into, I mean have a look at social economic studies that look at how it could benefit the area around us. Have a look at technical studies to see how it could, or what technology and composition of technologies might deliver the optimum price. So if we were to go to KPLC, Ministry of Energy, and say, we can deliver you clean energy at this price, what do you think? Is it competitive? Does it meet your expectation and align? And that work is time-consuming and expensive, but it's something that we'll engage in and try and create that alignment with the ministry and with the power development plan. So there's more to come there, I'm sure.
That has been the Turbines of Marsabit, a podcast about Africa's largest wind farm. Please leave a comment, share, and like. Let us know what else you'd like to know about this project. When we come back in the next season, we'll be sure to bring you the guests that will answer your questions. I have been your host, Paul Wafula.